How you doing, Rasmanites? I had to go to work today as soon as I got done watching the WWE TLC pay-per-view, so this is the earliest that I can make a video. So because of how late it is at night, I just wanted to make sure my thoughts got out today. So I'm doing a direct to YouTube upload, but this is a full episode of the Rasman's Reality brought to you by Handi Enterprises Inc. and Kiki.com, and happy birthday, Boss Man, if you're watching. So, Randy Orton, the brand new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. First things first, I told you, YWC. I was one of the first and only people on here. Well, maybe not only, maybe there's a few people who I'm not subscribed to yet that I haven't seen, but I was the only person that I'm subscribed to anyway, except maybe David. Maybe David said, the former Fort Minor Project, David Rivera, I think he said that this would happen, but he may have been the only other one. Anyway, the point is, I was one of the very few people that actually knew that this would happen. Everybody said, well, they're not actually going to unify the titles because it doesn't make sense, it's not a big enough pay-per-view. The reason that you do this, like I said in my initial thoughts videos, for two reasons. Number one, if you don't do this, if you didn't do this last night, then the Royal Rumble winner becomes moot because he's got nobody to challenge. And the second and more important reason that you do this is that it actually pays attention to a little bit of history, because when the WCW and WWE championships were unified into one title, that happened at a December pay-per-view with Chris Jericho, back then known as Vengeance. So, you have both those factors telling you that this was actually going to happen. Now, before I get into Randy Orton, and is Randy Orton the right guy to hold the title? And yes, I'm just going to talk about the title. I'm not going to talk about the entire pay-per-view because I had to do the video late, and really, other than Daniel Bryan versus the Wyatts and CM Punk versus the Shield, there was nothing that happened last night that anybody's even going to care about other than this match. Let's be honest. So, before I talk about Orton, I want to clear something up that I don't think a lot of people know. And that is that this was the unification of the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship. There's a difference there than the undisputed / unified champion from before. The undisputed champion beforehand was the WCW and the WWE Championship belts. It was not the World Heavyweight Championship that was reintroduced by WWE in, I believe, I want to say 2002 was when Triple H got that title. Yeah, it was the same title that WCW had and carried all those years, but it became the World Heavyweight Championship again, which has lineage going back all the way to the AWA and the Northern Territories and everything that isn't the WWF, the WWF, and the WWE. It became that championship again when it was no longer associated with WCW. When WCW died as a company, that made that championship the World Heavyweight Championship. And that is something big to remember here. And that's why everything WWE has done in the last month actually makes sense. So I just want to clarify that, because some people are still saying, well, we've already had an undisputed champion. Yeah, we had a unified undisputed champion before, but it was not a unification of the World Championship and the WWE Championship. This unification actually is historic and actually is a big moment in time. So, Randy Orton, is he the right guy? Well, first of all, let's briefly talk about the match. The match itself last night was a solid 3-star match. I thought it was absolutely amazing for the limitations of both guys and the environment of the match. And anytime you throw anything hardcore in there, it kind of takes away from pure wrestling standpoint of things. But I thought, given everything, it was really well done. And I thought the ending with Orton handcuffing Cena to the ring and Cena actually taking the bottom rope out, I thought that was very innovative and something you haven't seen in WWE before now. So I really enjoyed that ending. I've seen it before plenty of times in the indies, but never on a mainstream level. So I enjoyed the ending and enjoyed the match. I thought both guys put on a really, really solid 3-star match. So the question is now is why Randy Orton and not John Cena? Well, the reason I think that they chose Randy Orton over John Cena was because, like I've said 100 times, for anybody that listens to Breaking the Fourth Wall, there's only going to be one logical winner to the Royal Rumble this year, and that's Daniel Bryan. They're going to finish out, they've got 6 weeks between now and the Rumble. So this feud between the Wyatts and Daniel Bryan will be over by the time we get to the Royal Rumble match itself. And Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble and solidifies his place as the number 1 contender at WrestleMania. So Randy Orton needed to be the guy that remains champion up until WrestleMania, because Daniel Bryan will finally get his vengeance over Randy Orton. Now, some people said that for that very reason that it should have been John Cena last night, because John Cena and Daniel Bryan have unfinished business, and they do. And we've seen Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan 100 times over. And my thought process on that is I can see where you're coming from, but it's like Daniel Bryan said in the match that they had on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. Daniel Bryan did not get a legitimate match with Randy Orton. And now the Authority at this point, I think, is finally walking the line and just being Authority, and they're not full on heels. They didn't pick a side in this feud. They actually made Randy Orton work for becoming champion. So I think that Randy Orton is no longer the Authority, figurehead like he was. He's just the WWE's World Heavyweight Champion. So I think Daniel Bryan can now legitimately get a championship match that'll mean something on the grandest stage of them all at WrestleMania. And because of that, it would mean more to Randy Orton as a character from this past year for it to be Randy Orton. Or excuse me, it would mean more to Daniel Bryan. I think I said Randy Orton twice. But it would mean more to Daniel Bryan as an actual character overall to have him facing Randy Orton at Mania than it would John Cena. And the third and final reason is because Randy Orton's a heel, and it's pretty obvious that they want the Royal Rumble winner in Daniel Bryan to be a face. So I think the writing is just all over the place, all over the wall for Daniel Bryan to be the contender at WrestleMania. So that's why I think Randy Orton won over John Cena. And I actually think Randy Orton is very good at what he does and playing a very cocky, holier-than-thou heel, which is who the first ever WWE World Heavyweight Champion should be. And the historicness of these titles being unified should be handled by a guy that is that guy. So those are my thoughts. Full screen referral link if you'd like to become a full YouTube partner, as always, is down below in the description box. Let me know yours. We will hopefully be back with a recording of Breaking the Fourth Wall tomorrow. I've been so busy with my work life and personal life, and Brennan's been under the weather, but hopefully we'll be back tomorrow with a recording to get that podcast up on geeky.com, so look forward to that. And this is reality according to the Razman and the Razman style. It's not just a catchphrase, but a way of life.